Hello, and thanks for having us. We, that is Jens Lill from the BSZ, a library service center operating in southwest Germany, and myself, Barbara Fischer, working as liaison counsel at the German National Library. We would like to give you an overview how we foster the participative usage of authority data beyond libraries. We assume that you, as our audience, are familiar with the task of cataloging, especially in museums. And we believe that digital transformation is enhancing the need of linked data in your strategic thinking. Please follow us in our talk, How Authority Data May Help You in Your Challenge. The talk will build up an argument from the point where we all are right now in the glamorous internet. 2. Touching the aspect of linked data in the digital transformation. 3. Defining the role of authority data. 4. And what it takes to share it across domains. And 5. Our talk will be ending with an invitation. When we talk about the digital transformation, we all think of the internet first. Besides that, we use computers in different gadgets all day long, despite that data has been reduced in its meaning to digital bits wherever it is produced or collected, and despite that communication in the last month has been mostly behind screens. Still, the internet seems to be at the core of all that. Commonly, in the GLAM field, we focus on the internet being the culminating platform where both content providers and consumers meet and transform into prosumers in more or lesser degree. Many cultural institutions and portals focus on online presentations. The institutional website is considered to be the digital entrance to the museum and its collections. Is that a valid assumption? Ask yourself, how do you look for objects yourself? Please keep that question in mind during the following. In May 2020, the Network of European Museum Organizations published a highly noted survey on how COVID-19 altered the approach of museums towards the digital transformation. Confronted with a complete absence of audience during the first lockdown, all participants of the survey reported increased efforts to present themselves and their collections online. The debate on the report in the GLAM community, like among the Europeana Network Association, stressed one thing in particular: the need of further and deeper capacity building inside the institutions, both handling the hardware and the different technical programs, but also to better understand the nature of data itself. But already before the pandemic, as more and more content from museums is available online, mostly addressed through Google search engine, the single item gets lost in the midst of all the data. People get used to that well-known slot. But the unseen rest is deemed to oblivion. Do we want to limit our cultural heritage, the base of our identity construction, to the results of a commercial search engine? The search engine is tuned to satisfy our consumers' interests, but not to widen our intellectual horizon. Sharing the digital content is a promise. All the valuable content that is stored, studied, and presented in the museums becomes an attractive raw material outside the institution when it is transformed into digital files. The digital presentation of cultural content has an amazing creative potential, it is claimed. Yet, Very often, the blockbusters become just more known. Meanwhile, less known items are not taken in account. One reason is, of course, that a meme is only a meme when recognized as such. But more often the reason that content lacks retrieval is simply that it is hard to find. This is the case when providing little or no metadata and linking knots. You know, cataloging is not the department having the most glamorous appeal. Most parameters to measure the museum's impact is based on how many visitors are visiting the house, be it online or the analog visit. The flow of resources follows the parameters of impact. The impact of cataloging lacks often its powerful spokesperson, which may be one of the reasons why poor metadata is linked to the items in the net. Another reason is copyright. At least that is the Europeana experience, the major European cultural heritage aggregator. The institutions themselves are claiming intellectual property on richer metadata. Thus, the valuable content is stripped off before the items are handed over to the platform in order to fulfill the fair data principles. Digital content is not limited to exhibitions. It is not even limited to images. As cultural heritage data becomes more attractive in apps for gaming and edutainment, it gains attention for reuse and applications for research too. Science looks at digital content and increasingly as big data. New disciplines in digital humanities have been baptized almost every term in all major universities in the last 5 years. Using digital means to analyze huge amounts of data, both images and even more text. Visualization of data-based knowledge has spurred further research. So coming back to the question we asked a few slides ago, how do you find the images you are looking for? I guess you employ search engines. The more often a Google search is clicked, the higher it gets ranked, which leads to more clicks and still higher ranking. The rest is not displayed. Yet art is just a fraction of the museum field. Artifacts of all sorts form the bulk. If we look, for instance, for traditional clothing in Flanders, at least to me, Google does not list a single museum or portal as source for more information on its first 2 pages. So improving retrieval to foster the visibility of your collection and the research you do on it should be an issue for you. Two, link data or the semantic web. The most operated search engine was founded 22 years ago. First, we trained the engine. Now, the engine trains our expectations. That is why we employ masters in search engine optimization, why we try to improve the keywords we use on our websites, and why we spend our dear money in Google Ads. Is there an alternative? Tim Berners-Lee's vision of semantic web is today both more wanted as more institutions and people share, search, and script content in the net, and easier to achieve as the IT capacities have increased. Unfortunately, we have no semantic web. We are developing artificial intelligence to teach machines to plow through the data oceans faster, more concise, and more intelligent. But the semantic web that Lee envisioned almost 20 years ago is not operating. Here is the reason. Most of the data does not speak to the machines, like Wikipedia articles. It is digital content, yes, But to a machine, it takes petabillions of operations to understand the true meaning of the accumulated data in all these letters. Machine, as humans, understand things by analyzing them. Imagine there would be persistent identifiers indicating machine-readable content, highlighting keywords in the content to be understood by the bot plotting through the content of all the websites. Then the web content would become meaningful to computers, and only then we would obtain the semantic web. We would be able, for instance, to visualize the connections of persons, their hometowns, their skills, by just a few clicks. The semantic web does not come automatically. It is not based on some cryptic algorithm or artificial intelligence. They will help the cause. But the simple truth is, basically, it will be based on human labor. It needs people that care for cataloging, men and women entering metadata into their databases and sharing it. See here the code behind the online presentation of a famous gallery in Frankfurt. The online exhibition is based on data from their database. The code is readable to machines. The more structured data we include, the easier it becomes to find data even though you do not know where to look for it. But the data is there and can be found. That is the basic idea of retrieval. We often limit ourselves asking what is needed to engage with our visitors. How do we turn them into members of the museum community? Now, we learn this might not be enough. When the numbers of the audience drop, when the pandemic, like under a burning glass, reveals our vulnerability in changing times, we need to be able to cope with the new requirements. Online is no longer behind the screen, like we used to display our collection behind the glass of our displays. Our audience has moved. Art and creative industries have moved. Science has moved. We moved. We are no longer in front of the display cabinet. We are all increasingly inside the digital world. The GLAM employee needs to become a data wrangler. We need to obtain data literacy, treating, handling, and serving our digitized collections as data, actually as big data. All the data is the same basic electric impulse, but some data is different. Here's a very simple triangle explaining the differences of data. In the bottom, there's all data. All is reduced to either the electric impulse is on or off. The Nefertiti itself is just a bunch of zeros and ones in the internet. Wikipedia articles describe these items. It is data on data. It is metadata, but still not machine readable. The third level is the structured data and Wikidata. This data can be read by computers. Wikidata became necessary to maintain the quality of the Wikipedia articles, keeping them azure through centralization. Yet Wikidata itself relies on authority data. Links to it to approved sources, identifiers provided by libraries across the world in their authority files. The GND is the integrated authority file to the German-speaking countries. And from now on, Jens Lill, my colleague, will take over.
Thanks, Barbara. So why do we need an integrated approach across domains, disciplines, and sections? When thinking of central activities in libraries, these might come in mind, amongst others. Cataloging and sorting books or other media, making sure you will find documents and their content, grouping and classifying, managing information, organizing knowledge. Maybe the very core of the librarian profession is the last one, organizing knowledge. One of the central tools organizing knowledge in libraries are authority files. They link one identifier, normally a numeric code, to a label or a name. This means they codify a text string which makes it readable both to humans and machines. By adding a persistent link, you get a reference point in the web. That's the basic idea. A label, an ID, and an URL. But this alone is not enough. It would only be a list of names, numbers, and URLs. There's one important thing missing: disambiguation. As to persons, disambiguation often is achieved by relating it to their birth date. For places, the georeference is suitable. Works are linked to their creators and so forth. Being very much down to the basic rules, the formula would thus be label, ID, URL, and at least one disambiguating property. An authority record is expected to deliver identifiers, persistent URLs, and faithful disambiguation of the described entities. Meeting these requirements, the authority file GND is that tool for the German-speaking countries. The GND uses an entity relationship model and has a modular data structure. The GND converged in 2012 from 4 precursors and contains today about 9 million records, still growing. The GND wants to further the retrieval, identification, contextualization, and attribution of data items. These are the hard facts. But there is, let's call it a soft feature too. The implicit clue of an authority file is its reliability. People using the GND have faith in its institutional contributors delivering high-quality data. Yet until now, the GND is a quality tool produced by librarians to serve mainly their needs. Those who use, edit, and develop the GND are mostly librarians. But things are changing. Now we experience the impact of the digital turn. In the past years, from being a tool serving librarians to catalog publications, authority control has gained a certain appeal among museums, archives, and science in general. There is an apparent need for persistent identifiers. What distinguishes the GND from other librarian authority files is that it's already a product of cooperation. Approximately 1,000 libraries in German-speaking countries, Switzerland, Germany, and Austria, contribute to the GND, and a lot of more use it. Wikipedians do not only link Wikipedia articles to it, but help to correct and enrich entries, especially on persons. In the past years, the administrative structure and strategic program of the GND have been changed little by little. The goal is to enable more interaction, more cooperation, more integration of data, which is not conceptually linked to publications, reaching out to communities beyond the realm of libraries, increasing both the amount of items, but even more their diversity. In May 2018, we started the research project GND for Cultural Data, in short GND4C, funded by the German Research Foundation. 5 partner institutions from different realms are investigating on what it takes to open the GND for non-librarian use. We are about to finish the first research term, and here are our findings. GND4C is mainly a research project. Together with museums and archives, we define the specific requirements on the organization, the data model, and the technical infrastructure. The goal is to enable not only the use of existing GND entities in their own databases, but to add new data records to the GND and update existing records on their own behalf. We are looking both into the theoretical framework and prototyping practical workflows. And we go even further to ease collaboration. We cooperate with Wikimedia Germany to use the potentials of Wikibase as a new software base for the GND, operating alongside the existing library IT systems. We have found the GND data model is flexible enough to cope with the requirements of museums and archives. There is a need to give a greater independence to the regulations treating the authority file itself, from the standards forming the librarian cataloging. Here we aim to install a core rule set and allow several community-based rules defined in separate, so-called plus sections of regulations. And we face an institutional landscape where museums and archives are far less integrated into a national and international organizational system than libraries. In the field of museums, many institutions are working on their own and without much resources, both in financial means and in personnel. Actually, it is a complex change process. So why should you care? You are all cataloging your collections and presenting the data in the net to a wider or lesser extent. You are looking for additional content to your own data, and you know others might consider your information as interesting data for themselves. Exchanging data has become the crucial requirement of our time. But linked data is not enough. We believe in the power of the semantic web. The semantic web is giving a structure to ephemeral data. We need to ensure the linkage to its context through data as meaningful information. We need a flexible yet stable response to a rapidly changing digital environment. We need a semantic web we can refer to and bind data to. Scientific thinking could be described like: we take an object apart, we look for rules and relations, we define properties, and we fit it into a system that becomes a new object. We structure the data to obtain information and to transform it into knowledge. The workflow we apply is similar to algorithms used by computers. But structured data is not a machine thing. To structure data is a human behavior we teach machines to copy. Authority files support the structuring of data. Shared persistent standards help communication between humans and link to coded identifiers also with machines. It increases the velocity of retrieval and exchange. This helps the evaluation of ideas and the analysis of information. It opens the perspective to more knowledge, a better understanding of the task ahead. Librarians knew all that for long, even before transforming authority files into a digital tool. Museums, archives, and science institutions in German-speaking countries and beyond aim to share that handy tool as they see their data online getting lost in myriads of entries in the World Wide Web. This is why they put resources in becoming part of the GND network. Now, we would like to know, where do you turn to obtain reliable structured data? Do you have access to the authority files of your librarian colleagues? We would like to link our project GND4C to similar projects in your countries. So please reach out to us through our provided contact options. Thank you very much, et merci pour votre intérêt.
Thanks from my side as well.